So all right.
Mhm.
Welcome to Let's Talk with Danuelle podcast. And I'm so excited today. I have my beautiful, wonderful, talented guest, Christina Bruce. Welcome to my
Thank
podcast.
you so much. Hi, how are you?
I am doing so great. I know everyone who knows that we supposed to started really earlier, like around 7, but we didn't. I didn't get a chance to do that, but we are here. I'm so excited. This is my first podcast within this year, and so I'm really excited to have this guest. I want to introduce you guys to her, Christina Bruce. She is a wife, a mother, a businesswoman, and she is an entrepreneur. She has her website called Alabaster Wells. You can check her out. Please check her out. I mean, she is so gifted. If you love art like I do, you would definitely love her art. And I believe her art speaks to my heart. And I know I'm not the only one that I'm not the only one that believes that. So I'm pretty sure all of the ones who have purchased her artwork can say the same. So before we get started, I just want to make sure I check here and make sure our guests are able to see us. So give me 1 second, guys.
Okay.
Check here. Right, we're going to just make sure. Mhm. To public. So everyone. All right. So I'm going to go ahead and tag you.
All right.
All right. All right. So I'm not really sure if I tagged you or not,
That's
but
okay. We'll figure it out.
we'll figure it out. Um, so everyone, welcome to Let's Talk with Danielle podcast. And like I said, I do have my guest here, Christina Bruce here, and I'm so excited that she was able to come and talk to us about how we're going trying to find balance in it all with, being a mom and a wife and a woman of God and, and a business owner. So, yeah, tell me a little bit about you. How did you, let's get into how did you get into painting?
Okay, sure. Yeah. I am a artist, of course, as Danielle mentioned, but that's really what I do as my night job. But and by day, I'm a real estate developer. I'm a project manager, and I do multifamily affordable housing. So I'm an architect by training, and I'm an artist by love. So I've always loved art. I think I was drawing and sketching from when I was, a little kid, and I always took art classes in school, and whatnot. But that kind of led me to architecture, actually, because the architecture kind of married art with also being analytical and building things. And I always liked 3D items, like just very tactile. And, if I was going to a museum, I always wanted to touch it. So I liked architecture because it's something that you can put together, you can build. You're basically making something out of nothing. Like you got dirt and then from dirt you get, there's all these processes in the background that are happening, but from that you get a building, and that was just always has always been really exciting to me. And so more recently I have started to develop art as a business, just because I feel like, I was always painting, always doing something creative, But more recently, the Lord has been speaking to me through art and giving me more visions and more downloads of things that I just felt really needed to be on a canvas. And, there's just having art that speaks a scripture, that speaks a word to people. I want my art to do more than just be pretty. I want it to speak, to be another way to hear God's voice. So when you look at it, um, you see yourself in the picture. You see what God is trying to speak to you through it.
And that's what you're doing, because when I first saw your painting, it spoke to me, it spoke to my heart. And I was like, well, I don't know if she understands the volume, the anointing behind her. Because, like you said, people, you can paint, but it's something about being a representative, a woman of God. And it's like, no matter what you do in this earth, when you are joined with Him, it does speak. People can tell. People can tell the presence of God is with you. People can tell through, how you carry yourself, or your painting, or how you do your integrity, or how you are at work, and in
Mhm.
different aspects. People know, they can just tell the presence of God. And so when I saw your painting, I was like, whoa. I think I messaged you. And I was like, you know what? You are so anointed. You are very anointed in your work, and it was really beautiful. It spoke to my heart, and I just, I mean, when I see people that are gifted like that, I always want to sit down and talk and say, because me myself, when you have God speaking to you in a way, and life be life in, and you got your skills, you got a career, and sometimes there are seasons where you don't want to create,
Mhm.
because it's not that you don't want to, it's just you don't feel like you have the right season to create.
Right.
Hmm.
Absolutely. Yeah, it is really hard to find the balance in it. I really just gotta, a lot of times when I do paint, I just have to burn the candle at both ends. That's kind of what it is. But because it's something that I love, the time just goes by. And so, I kind of had to get myself out of the rut of like, okay, well, I need to have 5 hours to paint, but no, you just do what you can. Set up, if you have half an hour, you can do it in that amount of time, and then just really having a space where I could leave stuff and then come back to it and do a little bit here and there. That's also really key to being able to create in small gaps. So, but that's kind of how I, um, balance everything out. I don't try to. I stopped trying to do it all at once, and that's kind of stunted me in the past. Where I'm like, I need all kinds of time to do it. I need hours and hours and hours, and you do, and but it's cumulative. So you
Hmm.
can do 30 minutes here, 30 minutes there, and I mean, I'm on my own timeline, so I'd
Yeah,
rather create something than just keep saying I don't have enough time and never create anything. So.
I think it's really interesting that you have been an architect for over 13 years, and
Mhm.
have that knowledge and the ability to create. Um, when you were in that field, I mean, how did you even get into that?
Well, I decided that I really wanted to be an architect when I was probably like eighth grade, maybe around 14 years old or so. And my first like sketch design that I did around that age was an orphanage. And I just really wanted to build this orphanage. So that was kind of like my dream. But then I didn't go to college for art architecture. I went to college. I did my undergrad in economics. But then I still was like, had this burning desire to do architecture. I don't know why. I didn't do it. Just I talked myself out of it. I was like, it's too hard. They say
Mhm.
this, they say that. I talked myself out of it because it was too hard. So that's a lesson to the young people. Don't talk yourself out of something because because
Yes.
people say it's too hard.
Mhm.
But then so I went to grad school for architecture, and so that's where I actually got trained and everything. And then my first built project was actually a pro bono orphanage in Cameroon, Africa. So that was kind of like full circle 20 years later, after I kind of had this idea and vision to build an orphanage. And I just, sat in my room on my bed, just
Yeah.
sketching stuff out and, spending hours and hours drawing plans. I didn't even know how to draw plans, but, and then, I was able to go to Cameroon and see a site and to meet orphans that and we were able to raise funds for it, and the design was built there. And so that was a
Right.
while ago. That was in 2011. And so that was just it just brought me back because I'm like, wow, I can't believe that it was an idea that I had when I was a younger teenager that came to fruition 20 years later. Um,
Ooh. Let's
so,
hold on right there. Not to cut you off. That says a lot because
mhm.
um, God begins to speak in us and plant seeds and things in us
Yeah,
when we are kids. And
right.
that's even
Absolutely.
called purpose. And when you
Hmm.
talk about purpose and how, it's almost like, in the scripture where it says in the Bible where he said, I knew you before you was formed in your mother's womb, he
Hmm.
before. It's almost like when we are here on earth as even a little kid, God has already put things inside
Yeah.
of us. You know?
Absolutely. Absolutely. So yeah, so like if you have kids, you never discount the dreams that they have, because you don't know how it's going to manifest later on down the road. And I mean, there's so many instances where I could say, like, I said something that I was going to do, and then years later, you kind of say it in passing and kind of forget
Mhm.
about it. Years later it comes to pass. So that happened to me with being in real estate development. When I was in grad school, I was like, I want to be a developer. And then years later, that like over 10 years later, the developer called me up and offered me a job. So,
Look at
so
God. That is
yeah.
so cool. And how long you have been in that field?
I've been in real estate development for 3 years now. So when I started I've always worked in multifamily architecture,
Mhm.
and then when I started with the developer, I started doing focusing on affordable housing. So.
Wow. Wow. See, and it kind of goes back to what you were saying about um, sometimes you have to listen and know what is speaking to you, what
Mhm,
God is speaking
mhm,
inside of you, and it's about faith as well and stepping out into certain things. I think I'm learning in this season in my life where I'm in a, I'm in this season where I am excited and embracing wherever God takes me. Um, in this season, I believe like where I'm at right now, I guess he is reminding me that he's faithful because sometimes
absolutely.
seasons are not always pleasant. Sometimes God be wanting me to share things. I'm like, well, Lord, every time I'm talking, it seems like it's like something sad or something. And God was like, well, testimony is powerful because even though
Absolutely.
a person might be on in this level or in this season, when they come around and hear something that you lost, because I had lost my job at one point. This was in 2020, I want to say the end of 2023, going into 2024 or 2024, whatever that was, but in that season. And I was so embarrassed. And I was like, well, God, what did I do? And I didn't do it. Wasn't my performance, my job. The department closed down.
Hmm.
but somehow you feel this shame, like you failed. And
Mm-hmm.
but in that season, I say that to say, now that I'm on the other side of it, and now that God did bless me with a job, and now that God has um, stirred up my gifts with my writing and different opportunities and things like that. Now I'm on the other side and I'm seeing the fruit, I'm seeing the opportunities come. Now God was just, he was just reminding me. He said, now that you see why it's always important to speak faith even when you're going through it,
Oh
even,
yeah.
you know, because I can look back at some of my videos or some of my posts while I was going through it, but I was still speaking faith, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
I'm learning
Yeah.
to be faithful.
Yeah, I mean, he kind of takes you on different paths, and sometimes it's not quite a linear path. I mean, I know mine has not been linear at all from, from the time that, starting out loving art and loving architecture, and then not really, even going to school for architecture until I was already an adult. Like I was already in my 20s when I went back to school. So, but architecture has really informed my art as well. And
Hmm.
just because, like, you're in school, you're making models, and you got to do a lot of sketching and whatnot. And so I didn't go to art school or anything, but doing architecture just kind of really made me love mixed media, love texture, love bringing in different elements into my art. So a lot of my art, not all of it, but a lot of it has like a 3D element to it. It has some sort of maybe some sort of architectural element to it. It definitely has a lot of texture and a lot of movement to it. That's just kind of like the style that I've developed. And I can definitely attribute that to architecture.
Wow. I just know that when I, guys, listen, um, please go to her website. If you love art, you want something different, and you want, especially if you are a woman or a man of faith, and you want an art piece to speak to you spiritually, go to her website. It's right there by her name, alabasterwells.com, and
Yes.
check out her pieces and her artwork. It's really, I think, to me, I believe it's, you're not just getting an art, you're getting, like I said, your art speaks. You're putting
Hmm.
a lot of you in that artwork. So gotta check her
Yeah.
out.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, a lot of the art is prophetic. It's a declaration, and like this piece, this is probably my signature piece here. It's let me tilt up the camera a little bit so you can see a little. Um,
I love
this
that one.
is my who God says I am. That's that piece. What that piece is called, and this one in her hair, it's basically I am affirmations.
Yes,
I am loved. I am called. I am chosen. I'm not forgotten. I'm not forsaken. All that is written in her hair.
I love it.
so that is this is one of the pieces that really launched Alabaster Wells. Basically, that was really kind of what took me from just painting regular just painting for fun and to kind of painting with God, painting
Mhm.
on another level. So that this and actually this is not the first prophetic vision that the Lord told me to paint, and I
Wow.
actually still haven't been able to paint the original one, because I just got really intimidated by it. The painting is, I guess you could say, more than my skill set. So
Mhm.
I
You can
feel
feel it.
I
Yes.
I just am like, okay, how do I do it? I don't know how to do it. So I actually got like kind of like painter's block, if you would say.
Wow.
Like I couldn't paint anything for probably about 2 years, because I was stuck, because I had this vision of this painting and I knew I was supposed to paint it and I couldn't paint anything else. And so then I started like just painting little things like flowers and just trying to like get it back a little bit. I painted like a little giraffe, trying to just like get the skills back,
Mhm.
but I was struggling. And then I think the Lord released me, and then I painted this. So I still have to paint that other one, and I still will one of the, like soon. It's on my list of things, and I know that even though I feel it's bigger than my skill set, that I just really have to trust the Lord and let Him lead with the paintbrush, because it's a lot of the things that I have painted. Now that I look back, I'm like, okay, that was better than what I thought I could do.
Wow.
So I gotta really, even trust God in
Yes.
Him just guiding me.
Can I say, when I was reading about Solomon and how God had led him to build, and so there were certain things that even his father David had wanted to, was it build the temple, and
Hmm.
it was. And let me make sure I get my little word right. It was Solomon who rebuilt the temple, right? And
Hmm.
so it's I think and then because I was reading about Solomon and him rebuilding the temple, and I'm like, timing, God's timing,
Hmm.
and it's like he's so smooth where when he move on you to do something, it's like the right timing. It's
Yeah.
almost like this comes together, and
Hmm.
I was thinking about Solomon because I was reading where at the season he was in, Queen of Sheba was so amazed on how much wisdom he had and how much wealth he had, but it was all because of the glory of God, and he bragged
Hmm.
on that at the time. But I say that to say, when God was gifting Solomon, when God was giving him the ability to build and everything, I was just to me it is I think about his, like I said, his timing, God's timing.
Yeah.
And when you said about being prophetic, the picture that you had made with the young lady with the flowers on
Oh
it,
yes.
I seen that video,
Hmm.
and I thought the same thing. I said, "Oh, she reminds me of me."
Hmm.
And so when I heard you say that, I was like, I said, "That's so true. That's the season I'm in. That is
Yeah.
me. That is so me." And then, I really did feel that in my spirit. I really did. And so you're right. You're painting that. I know that one in particularly spoke to me about the season I'm in. I can't even really. I can talk about the season I'm in, but I really can't even really describe what God is doing in the inside of me, if that
Hmm.
makes sense. And
Yeah.
when and then you also mentioned about getting stuck. Do you not know some people that are creators, and they'll get stuck and they'll drop it?
Yeah.
They lose
I've
so
done
many
that.
young people.
I've Yeah, I've absolutely done that. And like I said, I was stuck for a couple years of where I didn't paint anything. And people were like, "When are you gonna paint something?" I was like, "I don't know." So like just literally like writer's block, but for art. And I mean, it had always just been more of a hobby for me anyway.
Mhm.
But then when I got that vision, I knew it was more. I knew it was bigger. But I just didn't have the capacity to, and I just didn't know how to do it. And so um and I'm still trying to figure out how to do that particular one. But I have so many other paintings that I have in mind that I know that the Lord is just giving me grace and giving me time. Like you said, time is the timing is so important. And that particular painting is inspired by one of my best friends, and for her birthday, and she's just hitting a milestone birthday, and so her husband told me that she loves butterflies. And
Wow.
so I was like, okay, how am I, what am I going to do? And, just in our, in our, um, interactions and just really studying the word together, because we do Bible studies together and whatnot, we had just kind of both kind of arrived at a new place in God and a new level, and just pointing the way to the timing that we're in.
Mhm.
And so, like, that's why there's a little compass in her hair, there's the clock, there's the butterflies kind of representing the evolution of time. And it's based on the verse in from Esther 4:14, where Mordecai is telling Esther,
Mm.
if it's time for you to step up. Basically, he's telling you, like, telling her, like, okay, if you don't step up,
Yeah.
then the people may perish, but maybe you were made for such a time as this.
Yeah.
And that's what the title of the that painting is. And I've just felt like so empowered by that thought, because we kind of feel like we've missed moments sometimes. We've wasted time, or well, we should have done this before or did that, or but you're in the time that you are supposed to be in. You're in the appointed time for your
Mhm.
life. And there's Kairos time is
Mhm.
the appointed time. So
Yeah.
there's linear time, which is Chronos time. It's, things happen the way they happen. But the
Yes.
appointed time is when God has ordained for the thing to come to pass. And so there's grace in that. And so that's what we have to just walk in.
That you said a lot, and that is well. I mean, meaning it was valuable. It speaks volume. You know what you were saying, because I think I was telling you about an opportunity. I felt like, you know, about my business. Remember, we were having that conversation, and I was like,
Mhm.
I said, wow. I said, I started seeing these people doing my idea.
Right.
And you were like,
Yeah.
well, it doesn't mean you don't have to do it because of someone else is doing it, because you're going to be different. And then your timing, it might not be
Hmm.
that time. So, um, so what you were saying, God's timing, is very, he will lead you. If you're being led and your steps is being ordered, he'll lead you. And
Hmm.
I was going to say something else. It was just on the tip of my tongue here with you. Um, So, so you said your painting was prophetic. Was that the first painting that you felt that was prophetic, or have you? Well, I can't say that, because you did say when you were 8 years old, the Lord
Hmm.
led you to do the orphan. The you
Oh,
drew.
14. But yeah.
Okay, for that you did. Was it a painting again or a sketch?
It was a series of sketches, but there's probably other ones that were without me really, like, connecting the dots and really realizing, like, me sketching out, rooms and buildings, as a middle schooler. Never didn't really even think that that would happen in real life later on. So that was prophetic, even though I didn't realize it at the time. And, so different things like that probably were without me knowing it. But I think, and I've done other paintings for people specifically, that I believe were prophetic, as well. But I feel like the this particular one, where who God says I am, was really more of, I guess, the convergence of me
Mm-hmm.
understanding what it was to paint prophetically.
Wow, that's amazing. Now I dream prophetically. I dream
Hmm.
well, I'll say this. The first time I ever had a prophetic dream, I was about 9 or 10. There was a
Mm.
family member that was going through a season and of addiction, but no one really knew because the family member was saying it was something else. And no, I'm not this. And one day the Lord had gave me a dream, and gave me a dream of her living free and delivered and beautiful. And I remember, and the Lord said, "You're going to go to her and tell her everything about the dream." And as
Mm-hmm.
a kid, I go to her and she just cries, and she tells me, and then there were details about the dream where I saw her in a home, and I would describe the furniture. She goes back to I think a couple of years later, she calls my mom and says, "That little girl dreamed about this. Everything in this apartment is exactly the way, way she,
Mm-hmm.
way she
Wow.
dreamed." But she's been delivered for years from that day.
Mm-hmm.
But I didn't
Wow.
know how significant it was until as I got older and mature in God, on the dreams He had been giving me throughout my life.
Mm-hmm.
I told my mom when I was about 8 that I was going to have a novel. And I said, I have a first name, but I told her
Mm-hmm.
that my novel would be my middle name. It'll say Danuelle Roberts. And I said, it'll be in a bookstore one day. And so, of course, years later, I published a book. I wrote a book. I had it published.
That's amazing.
May 24th. It wasn't available in all of the Barnes and Noble, but it was available in my hometown here in Dallas, Texas.
Wow.
And that was in 2024, when like everything that happened to me that was so unexpected, like losing my job,
Mm-hmm.
going through a health scare, and that, but God was still doing so many amazing things in my life, even like it
Yeah.
was raining on this side, but He was pouring blessings on this side at the same time. So,
Mm.
but it was all God. God had gave me that seed when I was a kid, but He
Yeah.
also gave me a dream that my book was going to be on the shelves of Barnes and Noble. And He told me,
Mm.
this was probably in 2017 or 2018. He said, "Go to this bookstore." It was in a dream. I woke up the same day. I followed what He told me to do that evening. I drove to the bookstore, and I took a picture of the shelf where it said Christian fiction. And
Mm-hmm.
I have a video on my Instagram and even Facebook. But I took this picture, and He said, "Your book is going to sit on the shelf."
Mm.
Now, 2024 is when the book, it was at the store I drove to.
Wow.
It was literally the store that accepted my book, in their store was the place that I had drove to back in 2018, 2017,
Wow.
2018. So yeah, I was like, okay, God, you're so good.
Yeah. He
So
is so good, so faithful. I mean, he
yeah.
uses everything. I mean, he uses everything that we're going through, with to show himself strong. I mean, he's showing that we're not doing it on our own. Like, because if in your own strength, you would have been like, okay, I can't manage this right now with all this other stuff. But then, he brings these promises to pass to let us know that he's in control, and he gets the glory and not us.
He gets the glory. And then He taught me, He encouraged me. He brought confidence to me, where He taught me that in everything that I put inside of you, every gift, because you can have more than one gift that He gives you.
Absolutely.
More, you can be gifted even in your business. You could be gifted to speak. You could be gifted in, like you said, have a certain wisdom about a certain thing, and still be gifted in a creative space as well.
Mhm.
So He was just telling me, He said, everything in on this earth, in this life, whatever I give to you, give it away, show it
Yeah.
to people. You
Mm.
know, a part of sharing it. And when I say give it away, I mean to put it on display, to
Mhm.
start a business. It's a good thing if you start a business, because we need more men and women of faith starting businesses and still having the morals and building that business on the foundation of God. You know,
Mhm.
watch God pour into you. I mean, sometimes, I had somebody who said, "Hey, I want you on my podcast." Now, mind you, this person had a lot of followers. I mean, this was recently, And I looked at the platform and I was like, and as a single woman, you know, I have to make sure as a single Christian woman, I have to make sure that I'm being represented in the right way. And so some
Mhm.
opportunities I had to turn down because I wasn't gonna that platform wasn't and when I say platform, I mean what they're going to be talking about,
Mhm.
what they're going to be asking me. Is it going to represent God? And my
Right.
life, is God going to get the glory in this? And if He's not, then I don't want to be a part of it. So I have
Yeah.
to put things down, no matter how many followers you have. I don't care. But
Mhm.
God is doing some good things in the season, and especially I believe this is a season for those who are creators to trust God. Sometimes it can get hard, but trust God. What would you say to those who are watching that may want to start a business in doing what they love, change their hobby into a business?
Mhm.
What would you say to them?
Well, I would definitely say keep your day job until it's actually able to replace your income. Um, because it takes time. Everything is an evolution. So you're gonna be in the learning process, you're gonna be in the growing process. And so you do have to still do put food on the table, pay your bills. So, you do have to maintain a level of excellence. And so I would say maintain that level of excellence while you're at your regular job, because you're planting seeds of excellence for your future. So if you can't serve another man's vision, then how can God trust you with your own vision? So I would say in the meantime, while you are developing your plans, you're putting your time in the evenings or your days off or whatever, you know, you build it, you kind of have to build them at both at the same time. So you're doing your job, you're building your business up. And you just have to really plan your schedule, make the time, carve out the time, spend less time watching TV,
Mhm.
less time scrolling, and just you got to have a little bit of discipline in order to make it work. And maybe a few late nights, but definitely a whole lot less TV.
Girl, listen, during the week, I don't watch no TV. And
Nah.
even I pick one day, like out of a weekend, to
Mhm.
this is going to be my day where I'm going to just do nothing and just relax.
Mhm.
Even if that's half a day, maybe half a day you do nothing and then you probably pick up on your errands and clean up, whatever.
Right.
You're right. That's a good tip because
Yeah.
when I wrote my novel, I had a full time job. I
Mhm.
stayed up many nights. That's how I write my books. I mean, if I'm working full time and then don't have a house to take care of and kids to take care of and a family,
Right.
if I'm doing all that, I knew in order to get this book completed, I knew late nights was going to be my best friend. I knew
Mhm.
saying, I knew certain like going out a lot of times the weekends were my work day for my book,
Mhm.
you
Yeah.
know. And I said, okay, well, to balance it off, maybe out of, if I worked on my book on all these weekends and then I was going to give myself time to have fun, or this weekend I'll set aside this time to spend times with my family and my kid, to
Yeah.
trying to balance it all, but it was a mission to complete. I have a book that I'm working on right now and I'm doing research
Mhm.
on it. It's about the slaves where they used to make, when they
Mhm.
got married, they used to jump the broom and then they used to design quilts. And they used to make quilts, and these quilts were so powerful where they actually had hidden messages, for a
Wow.
lot of slaves. And so, and even then they had the quilts that they would give when because they were not allowed to get married, but they would make these quilts for the bride. And so
Mhm.
in Black
Wow.
families, if you sit and talk to your elders, so you would learn that many of them had tables where they did quilts. My father, he was telling me about his, my mom and her mothers and grandmother, they all would sit around the table and they would talk and they would pray and they would laugh and they would speak,
Mm.
making quilts, and it was beautiful quilts. It was a form of art to me, I believe. Um,
Mm-hmm.
so I am going to make, it's going to be a fiction book, but I will be, they're going to be hidden gems about history and,
Mm.
love, God, faith.
Yeah, that sounds amazing. That
I'm
sounds amazing.
excited.
Yeah. Yeah, I think, the key to all of it, what no matter what you do, is putting God first. You seek first the kingdom of God, and all these things will be added to you, from Matthew 6:33. That's the principle. And I think that applies to every area. So you
Yeah.
can, no matter what you do, I don't care if you're, you know, a garbage
Mhm.
collector, seek him first. you know.
Well, we're going to wrap up. I had you on here a while, and I really, really enjoyed you. I don't want to leave this conversation because it's so good. Um, yes, but we have to do this again. Maybe we'll have you back,
Yeah.
and maybe this time I can have your pictures floating around.
Yeah, absolutely.
I was so disappointed that I didn't have them
Mm.
played while we were talking. But they can go to your website. Are there
Yes.
any events in your hometown that in the future or now that you're going to be participating in with when it comes
Um,
to painting?
Not right now, but hopefully soon. But yeah, you can. But my website, Alabaster Wells, on Facebook, Alabaster Wells, and TikTok. You know, just building all those platforms up. So for now, there. But if you stay tuned to those platforms, then I will definitely let everyone know when upcoming events would be.
Great. And for those who are you are in companies and organizations or just individuals that have programs, and can you tell them where you're located?
I'm in Charlotte, North Carolina.
Okay, so for those who are, if you're in her area, um, and you have a business or event that's coming or anything like that, and you looking for vendors and you want to have her paintings there, reach out to her, go to her website, and
Yes.
yeah, all right.
All right.
Anything else you want to say before we go?
I think we've covered a lot. It will
All
start a whole nother conversation if I say more.
right. Well, thank you so much for being on my show. I really am grateful and I'm honored to have you. I will be on your website soon shopping myself because I see a lot of good paintings that I want. And when I get them, I'm going to definitely show them to everybody on social media.
Yes.
You have a
Well,
good night. Go ahead.
thank you so much for having me, and I really appreciate the time, and it was a great conversation. So let's keep doing what you do.
Thank you. Thank you. Well, you have a good night.
Thanks, you too. All
And
right,
thank you
bye.
guys for watching.